Hello everyone! You can call me Twilight, and I'm happy to present the story for my Garden Warfare 3 series. This will be a multi-video endeavor, so subscribe to stay on top of every new entry. I'm not gonna hold you up any longer, so let's get right into it. Going over some much needed context for this, Battle for Neighborville doesn't feel canon to the first two Garden Warfare games for me, despite there being some pretty clear signs that they are. This explanation gets a little lengthy, so stick with me for a moment. That, or skip ahead to this time period to get to the conclusion. The Garden Warfare games and Battle for Neighborville are connected to each other thanks to the description for the Citronaut and Azure P costumes, referencing how Garden Warfare 2 involved space battles and acknowledging the existence of variants to begin with. Zomboss also name drops Mr. Stubbins, his pet zombie hedgehog he captured from a group of zombies he used to bully when he was in college, who decided to band together and fight back. Long story. This confirms that the comics are canon to the Garden Warfare universe, even if it wasn't enough that the first volume of the Garden Warfare miniseries directly states that it's a prequel to Garden Warfare 2. Things get complicated further once you realize that the Garden Warfare comics take place in Neighborville, but the games are situated in Suburbia. The easiest way to hand-wave it off is to say that Neighborville and Suburbia are two different names for the same city, especially since the latter is fairly generic. But the city infrastructure and lack of landmarks from one area being in the other makes it safe to say that they're different places altogether. Since the comics are canon to the Garden Warfare games, then how are they explaining a war in Suburbia that started in Neighborville? It makes even less sense unless Suburbia was a particular point of interest for the zombies that they took over during the events of Garden Warfare Volumes 1 and 2, when Zomboss discovered a hidden power source to his metallic butt. Don't ask. And then, once the two games took place, and by extension, Volume 3 of Garden Warfare, Suburbia was dealt with and the zombies took advantage of the confusion by launching an attack on the now unprotected Neighborville. The zombies were sealed in their giant glass jar, escaped 5 seconds later, and then Battle for Neighborville took place. Things get even more confusing once the gnomes get involved. They only really became a thing in Garden Warfare 2 as a super high-tech civilization of time gods that's beyond what the plants and zombies are capable of. The comics have this small squadron of gnomes who sort of just exist, and criticize both other factions for the manipulation of time, as they could create a paradox and rip a hole in the space-time continuum. After the comic concludes, the gnomes get all depressed for a minute because they never got involved, thinking that it was a bit of an anticlimax. However, they got their share of fun soon enough because both Zomboss and Crazy Dave discovered a way to travel to the Gnomeniverse around the same time. The Trials of Gnomus also happened, where the gnomes would dangle prizes in front of you in order to watch you suffer and struggle in the trials for their amusement, so that's fun. In Battle for Neighborville though, the gnomes still exist, but they feel different. They are relegated to being a joke-centered side quest in each of the PvE regions of Battle for Neighborville. I personally think that it's fine to add a bit of levity to their civilization, but all of their influence in Battle for Neighborville feels like a downgrade to that of Garden Warfare 2. For example, all the gnome ruins in Garden Warfare 2 look and feel like some advanced society was there, complemented with the sleek blue and bronze palette with glowing runes on most surfaces. It simultaneously looks old and futuristic, and I can't help but applaud the designers at PopCap for making it. The Battle for Neighborville ones though, they look like a generic ruin design that any game could have, with a stone gray pattern, engravings that highlight mostly features and look blocky, and you get the picture. Even the knights' mechs look like they're built with cogs and traditional mechanism, and not the bright blue otherworldly energy that the Garden Warfare 2 machines used. The music used also sounds a lot more like zany carnival music instead of the epic guitar riffs used for the Garden Warfare 2 gnomes, for the most part. It makes me sad that the unused Gnome King theme in Battle for Neighborville's files had the better pattern, but was scrapped. Because of how much running around you have to do to explain pretty much anything in the timeline to make it somewhat coherent, I'm gonna go about and say that Zomboss did some time travel shenanigans and erased all of the events from Battle for Neighborville from history, resetting the timeline back to when Garden Warfare 2 is ending. Garden Warfare 3 will be happening when Battle for Neighborville should have been taking place, but with Zomboss's new know-how, he executed his plans differently and changed the events into what I'll be talking about. I won't disrespect Battle for Neighborville's efforts though, because it did have the best story mode from all of them so far. I'll take the location of Neighborville and some of the events, characters, and story beats, but repackage them into Garden Warfare 3, both as a way to see more of the characters we know and love, and play into the weird alternate timeline I'm doing. Now let's actually get started with the story. When you boot up the game, you'll see a cutscene that puts the plot of what I described into motion. The plants are nearing victory in the war, and they're closing in on Zomboss's hideout. Being the coward he is when faced head-on, Zomboss scrambles for options as the plants begin to assault the gate with a mighty battering yam. He sees a comically large red button that reads, Plan B for brains. He smashes open the safety seal and hits the button with full force, as the plants bust down the massive doors. The plants spot him, but it's too late. He activates his time machine and disappears. Through a text bubble on the top of the screen, he says what his plan is in a typical cartoon villain fashion. You fools! You may have won this round, but I'll keep going back in time until I create a world where you lose. The zombies will win eventually, and we will have victory. We will have brains. I can keep playing this game forever. Mwahaha! He flashes out of existence, and the entire world swirls into white, as if being drained from a sink. With a dramatic flourish of the classic Plants vs. Zombies theme, the game's logo will fly into view with a hint of gnomish laughter in the background. That cutscene will be present every time you open the game, but it will be skippable just like the Garden Warfare 2 intro after your first viewing. Similar to Garden Warfare 2, there will be an exclusive additional movie during your first playthrough. The camera will do a very wide shot of the two cities, and they're a complete wreck. You see scaffolding surrounding a massive statue of Zomboss in construction, packages of brains being labeled to Zomboss, and hordes of zombies chasing a lone pea shooter down an alleyway. That pea shooter is you. As he comes face to face with a brick wall, the camera pans over to you, setting it into the proper perspective. You gain control over your character just in time to fight all the zombies. There'll be no match for you, as it's just a swarm of browncoats, along with a handful of coneheads and bucketheads. You weave your way through the maze-like alley and come across some glowing trash bins. Shooting them will have you unlock the 3 basic abilities for your character, the Chili Bean Bomb, the Pea Gatling, and Hyper abilities. You can use them on the soldiers that are starting to gather with the main AIs, and the blast from your Bean Bomb blows a hole in one of the brick walls, giving you a means to escape. You get a transmission from Crazy Dave saying that he noticed you from the explosion when flying over the city, and that he'll be over to pick you up. Your objective becomes finding the landing pad in the city. Luckily, the game points out for you where you're supposed to go, so that way you don't get lost. A timer appears at the top of the screen, and you are to survive in the circle for the next minute. Once the time expires, Dave arrives with Penny, blasts through all of the zombies, and rescues you. Thank you for watching. Creating this story was, is, and will be a massive project. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you later.